that's okay. Ms. Hess, concerning high-speed rail, there is proposed legislation of a bill, AB 1779, which will create joint powers of authority, and SB 1117, which will establish a statewide passenger rail transportation commission. Are you for or against either bill, and why?
Well, when high-speed rail was on the ballot, I voted no for it. The bottom line is we can't afford it. The high-speed rail had a bunch of termed-out politicians that were on their board, and it was a way for them to continue a paycheck. They've done nothing but delay, so that they can continue receiving a paycheck. I work in Lancaster, and they have the Metrolink that goes down to LA. I can tell you that the people that ride that is not even, the ridership can't even support that Metrolink. So, high-speed rail in its current form is ludicrous. We have no money, and if we're going to have some money, we should be spending it on existing infrastructure. Right now, the governor is looking at AB 32 and the cap and trade. And the rumor out there is that he's going to take those cap and trade, those dollars, and use those dollars to fund high-speed rail. I'm against it.
Mr. Freeland?
I'm not for high-speed rail. In theory, it sounds pretty good, but in practicality, one of the principles behind it was that private sector investors were going to come and help invest in it. The federal government was going to cough in more money than they actually probably will, and then the state of California is going to put in their share. You know what's going to happen? If this goes through, it's going to be the state of California that's going to spend money it doesn't have. What are we, about $15 billion now? And it's going up, and if the state tells you it's $15 billion, it's probably more than that in debt. I prefer that money to be used for things like paying down the debt in California. We got to get our house in order. A good household should not spend more money than it makes, and it should have rainy day funds and things for those tough years. Let's use that money, if we're going to use it at all, to pay down the debt, and we do need some infrastructure, but not a high-speed rail. The other thing, Amtrak. I've been on Amtrak maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, but the ridership on Amtrak's terrible. It's subsidized, and so will high-speed rail. Will be subsidized. It's going to be another burden on our children for another how many generations. To me, it's a ludicrous idea, and it should be killed before it costs more money to start implementing something we can't pay for.
Mr. Holloway?
I'm against high-speed rail. I'm absolutely against creating 2 more government bureaucracies to deal with high-speed rail. But I do serve on the League of California Cities Executive Board, and I have been in meetings, and not only is cap and trade dollars going to go to high-speed rail, but what they're going to try to do is improve the existing rail systems in areas like Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco. So it's probably going to happen in that manner, and we're going to be completely cut out of the loop. I'm from Louisiana, as I said in my introduction, and I grew up, my parents were divorced, so I was in New Orleans, and my mother was in Long Beach, Mississippi. So I am a child of Hurricane Katrina, although I wasn't in the Gulf Coast when it happened, but I had to deal with the after effects of that. And we have a tragedy waiting right here in our state, and that's with the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. We need to spend every single dollar solving that problem, which is about a $90 billion problem, about the same as high-speed rail. That's an absolute necessity. It creates jobs, it creates long-term benefits for the entire, especially our region, and we're totally ignoring it, and it's a ticking time bomb. And to be debating high-speed rail when you have this hanging over the heads of the people of this state is criminal, in my opinion. The Bay Delta Conservation Plan was approved back when Pete Wilson was in office. So I don't know why we can't divert our attention to that and get off a high-speed rail.
Ms. Escudero, thank you. Joint powers of authority, when it's being proposed in Sacramento, means a bigger stick to beat the little guy down with. That's really all joint powers means. So anything that's creating an agency that's going to be able to come at you from 2 different directions to force their will is going to be bad news. The other part about the joint authority is it actually eventually will mean that they will force the little ridership that exists on the Amtrak onto the high-speed rail. And that's a mistake, because high-speed rail is not going to be, if it's ever built, an option that some of the people that ride Amtrak are going to be able to afford, as much as they like to talk about affordability. We all know it's a pipe dream. There's only one place that high-speed rail makes sense to me, and that's from Anaheim to Las Vegas. I know they're talking about it, and built by private industry. That's the only way it makes sense anywhere in this country, is as a resort, bringing the tourists that fly into LA and driving them to Las Vegas. That's the only place that makes sense. When we talk about what that means, where we should be spending our money, it really has to be on projects that make sense to us. And that's, high-speed rail is a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and I definitely do not support it. Mr. Gleason.
Yeah, I'm against high-speed rail in all forms. I think it's unaffordable. It's something that we have better things to talk about and worry about than spending money on a idea that is based on faulty data and unreliable mitigation strategies. The city of Bakersfield doesn't like it. The only person I know who likes it is the governor, and he's trying to set up some jobs to help support sponsoring this activity. And the final thing I'd like to say is that I see no value to high-speed rail for people who live in the 1st District. And that's who I'd be representing, and that's who I'd make that decision for. The laydown is proposed to be up in Tulare County. I see zero value. All I see is impediment and infringement on personal property rights and the people who grow the food in the valley. So no, I'm against it.
I believe our next question starts with Mr. Freeland.